Hey guys, this episode of The Flying Kimura was brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood is the app that lets you trade and exchange stocks with no fees. And if you use the link in the description below, you can get yourself a free stock just for downloading it. Like I said, there's no fees to buy or sell or anything like that.
I agree. Use the link in the description.
Hey guys, what's going on? In this episode of The Flying Kimura, we're going to be talking about just some like MMA news has been going on lately and what some of the fighters have been doing, what have they been saying, what they've been up to.
Hot off the presses, we're talking Floyd Mayweather versus Nathan Diaz. I like that one a lot, mostly because if you look at realistically who Connor's had the most amount of problems with standing up so far, you'd have to say Nate. And so for Floyd to get a true challenge in the boxing arena, you would need him to face someone who had better stand-up than Connor, right? Because Connor could only go 10 rounds with Floyd.
Yeah.
So put somebody like Nate in there at, I think they were talking 55.
Yeah, somewhere around there. It could have been a catchweight bout as well.
I liked 55 for it. I think that would be catchweight in boxing. I'm not super familiar with the weight classes. I know Floyd wanted like 53. I'm like, dude, Floyd.
It's a weird weight. Just do 55.
It's 2 pounds, dude. You can make 55. But here would be the interesting part that I think Dana White would want to do. Because now this is kind of his second fight with Floyd. I think they were offering, it was something like $1 billion
For 4 fights with Floyd.
for 4 fights,
With different people.
which
Not
I really
all
like.
of Nate Diaz. That'd be weird, but
No, not with all the ideas. And I'd love to see them go kickboxing with boxing gloves. Floyd wants to do boxing gloves. I think he's earned it. But with kickboxing, I think he should go kickboxing. Nate Diaz is not going to throw a ton of kicks. Not stylistically his thing. So I think that you give him, it would be a good matchup there. I don't know, what do you think?
yeah, I like that matchup a lot, especially because Nate is. I mean, people don't realize, or I don't think they give enough credit to Nate's boxing. I mean, he has a really good boxing coach, and he also, I mean, his stance is very much like a boxing stance. You talk about how he's always heavy on his front foot, putting more weight there. It's because that's more of the traditional boxing stance, and I think it'd be interesting to see how those two go against each other with the respective striking that they have. And I like what you said about how Connor's biggest thing was most trouble was with Floyd, and with Nate Diaz, I think too, and then putting them against each other. I think it does make a lot of sense, especially given that you want to give Floyd like a good name, like a big name.
I would agree, and
Coming in.
We got a big pull from Connor Floyd. We just got a huge pull from Connor Khabib. If you review Khabib's Alain Quinta fight, you'd have to say Connor was definitely the main reason behind that. And if you want to split hairs here and go, well, he had a last minute replacement. Look at what happened when Connor had a last minute replacement with his first fight with Jose Aldo, and it happened to be Chad Mendes who stepped in instead. Now, Jose Aldo had easily defeated Chad Mendes once, and then defeated him a second time in a 5-round close decision. But we all knew Jose Aldo was better than Chad Mendes. So, but here's the thing: still sold out. Still sold tons of tickets. Now, Alain Quinta is a little bit underrated here. He had been sitting out for a long time. His ranking maybe wasn't where it should have been as far as that. I mean, he beat Jorge Masvidal. He's raging, man, raging out. He's pretty good. So it was like for MMA fans which Khabib is going to bring in a lot more. Connor's going to bring in a lot of casual fans, and he's going to bring in the hardcore fans. He's going to bring everybody in. Where Khabib's biggest pull is probably going to be from more of the hardcore fan base, and then Russian guys. Obviously, they're going to back their guy, and there's a ton of Russians. But Al is basically a well-known guy within I would say within like the hardcore fan base. So
I would agree. Yeah.
People would have still been as interested to see Khabib fight. They would have probably bought a pretty similar amount of pay-per-views. Definitely less, but a pretty similar amount. Most people were going to buy to watch Khabib anyways. I would say he has strong enough of a fan base to where no matter who he's fighting, the people who are going to pay for him are going to pay for him. So I think Conor was definitely the main benefactor there. So he sold more than Nate did. No one wants to see Khabib and Mayweather box. Khabib will get murdered.
He got picked apart. He's not a boxer. Conor McGregor is an excellent striker, and Khabib just decided he was going to pull a GSP and hold him on the ground for 5 rounds. But then he ended up just deciding to try and get him in the last one, or in the 4th round, I guess. But he didn't want to. The round where he did stand up and just exchange with McGregor won that round. Like he outstruck him, and they showed the scorecards. Conor won that round. Like, you don't want to watch. Khabib doesn't want to box Mayweather. If stand up and boxing is not his thing, then he doesn't want to fight a boxer. Why would you want to do that?
It doesn't make much sense to me why Khabib would. I get why he's thinking about doing it because of money, but it's like when you think about it, dude, you're gonna kind of embarrass the sport a little bit if you do it because you're not the right representative to cross over. Where Nate Diaz is a much more well-prepared representative of the sport to cross over. It's like when Pride and UFC were exchanging fighters. We brought over Chuck Liddell, not just because he was Dana White's boy. Why didn't they bring over Tito Ortiz at the time? Well, because Tito Ortiz was the UFC champion. And Rampage Jackson and Vanderlei Silva were really good, and Dana White definitely didn't want to see his champion, who Tito's a wrestler, Tito's kind of a grappler. He has great striking, but he I would say is better at his grappling than he is at his striking. So you brought over Chuck to handle the strikers. It made sense cross-promotionally.
And you look when they both fought, Chuck outstruck Tito. For sure. Like, that's why he won those fights, was from just, he TKO'd him. So he definitely was the better striker, and you definitely want to see that as opposed to, I think that Tito would have gotten torn up against some of those dudes when it comes to striking, because that grappling is more of his, what fits his...
Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
You stay in your lane. Nate Diaz, here's the thing. Khabib, if you want me to get real about it, like, I've given, like, the good reasons why I think that you shouldn't do it. You want to get real about it? Nate Diaz went to a boxing gym every single day for the past 25 years of his life, dude. Trained with just a boxing coach, Richard Perez. Just a boxing coach. You ask Richard Perez what he coaches? Boxing. That's it.
Whenever they talk about him, they always just say, that's Nate's boxing coach.
Yeah. He does not coach MMA boxing. He coaches specifically boxing.
Just regular boxing.
So why not give the guy who trained for years? It's not about like who's earned it, but it's like Floyd Mayweather deserves.
It's going to be a better
the
fight.
Best competition.
Yeah, he deserves someone who's going to go in there and they're going to know what they're doing, and they're going to stylistically be able to go in there and box like it's a boxing match, not box like it's an MMA match. Where you're kind of.
Khabib should wrestle against Mayweather's training with this grappling guy. If Khabib's really trying to get it on the payday, I'm not trying to I get it why Khabib would do it, but you could get Mayweather to do. He seems to be into little the sideshow acts here. If you're trying to get a cut of the action, go on the same card and grapple his training partner, who's an Olympic wrestler. So I forget. I apologize for not doing the research on it. I wasn't planning on even going here. We kind of just the discussion brought us here, but you go and look at this guy who is he's like an Olympic wrestler, or he's in the Olympics. I think he might have medaled. Wrestle him and be the co-main event, and you know what, that would do a ton for the sport of wrestling as a whole if you put it on the same platform. And we get it. It might not be something for pay-per-view, but guess what? They're gonna pay-per-view. People are gonna pay. They might not watch it, but they're gonna buy the pay-per-view still.
Yeah.
It's Nate Diaz versus Mayweather, and then you're really starting to promote all of combat sports at once, and you would have the opportunity to do something really cool. But who knows? I'm just a guy wearing an Expos hat.
Well, then, okay, I think that Khabib doesn't need to fight Mayweather to pull in still a decent payday. I think after what's happened right now, I think no matter who he fought next, it would still probably sell a lot of pay-per-views.
Absolutely. I think him and Tony Ferguson would do very close to 1 million pay-per-view buys.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure with his current UFC deal, that's a very good payday.
Oh, yeah. He got paid, okay. This is before everything happened and his payment was being withheld by the Athletic Commission, but he was initially supposed to get paid $2 million for the Conor fight. Up front, that's not with a win bonus or anything. There was no win bonus for that fight. It was, we're going to pay you $2 million to show up. You should probably try and win so that you can walk away with the belt and then go get more big pay-per-views against other people. But we're just going to give you $2 million to show up and do whatever you're going to do. But that's not, it wasn't like he'll still be pulling big pay-per-views and big paydays from other fights. Whether it's a rematch with Conor, whether he fights Tony, especially with Tony's last performance against who did he fight? Anthony Pettis. That was a really good fight for Tony. I know that like in the past they tried to schedule that fight 4 times, Tony Ferguson versus Khabib, and it just could not happen. But I feel like you kind of have to schedule that next unless you wanted to give it to Nate. But
Could be. Yeah,
I don't know, man.
That's the fight.
You gotta fight somebody.
It is a sport at one point. The MMA does run it different than boxing. In boxing, you can get away with it a little bit more, where you don't have to fight. You fight who you want, and then there is what is it called? Whatever. Like you have to fight. Yeah, at one point you can't dodge somebody forever in boxing.
Yeah,
like,
eventually
they're coming around. You're fighting them, but. In the UFC, it's a sport, man. And Khabib, you're the champion. And what has kind of driven me nuts a little bit these past couple of years is, and Michael Bisping's, I love Michael Bisping. He's as guilty of it as anybody else. Where these champions get the belts, and then they no longer feel the need to have any obligations of being a UFC fighter anymore.
Yeah.
Like, no offense, Tyron Woodley. And Cain Velasquez and like a bunch of guys.
You gotta fight and you gotta defend that belt, and if you can't, then whatever. But you don't get the belt anymore. Like
exactly. I mean, look at John Jones. I mean, the dude fights the day he's unsanctioned, ready to fight. Right?
Yeah.
It's like day of. Like they're like, and John, you're allowed to fight, and he's like, and then I will fight you the next Saturday.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sounds good. Like you know what I mean? He's eager. He's super eager to get in there.
Yeah.
And he wants to fight.
And then he gets
these
his belt
champions who are like, I got the belt. I mean, look at Joanna Jędrzejczyk. How everyone wants to know how long of a title reign it was. 5 title defenses or 5 championships. She was 1 short of Rousey. So I mean, super active when they're the champions. You get these real champions, and that's when you start to go like, is somebody? And I get where people might debate Conor, but it's like Conor is the exception. He went and did some other stuff outside of the sport. He did so much for the sport that you just can't argue whether or not Conor McGregor was a true champion or not. He really truly was.
And it's not like
I'm not a Conor. I'm not a huge. I love Conor, but like, I just more respect what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
Rather than like a.
And he did like, even though he had the 145 belt and then he didn't defend it. He did go and get that 155 belt after that, and I know he didn't defend that belt either. But like you said, he did go out and do boxing, and he did go through a lot of people to get through. I mean, he went through all the top contenders to get to the 145 belt.
He tore through the division. I mean, Poirier, Seaver, whatever, Holloway.
Yeah, Max Holloway.
And then he went through.
Fought Chad Mendes. Then he fought Jose Aldo.
Marcus Brimage is not a tough fight, or is not an easy fight either.
No.
And then
those are a lot of tough.
He had
which would have been
that
tough
shorter
fights.
Brazilian guy, Diego Brandao.
Yeah.
So if you look at Conor McGregor's fights since he's been in he fought every single fight was like a real fight, and so you gotta kind of like when you see guys who are like they're really fighting a lot, and then but you look at Conor so he took a break. But back to my point is, Khabib, you haven't even I know you haven't had a hearing yet, but how long do you think they're gonna suspend you? And I think he should get suspended for a while, but like. Or did they have a hearing and then kind of nothing? I don't even remember what it was.
They had a scheduled one, both him and Conor, and then both I believe got postponed to a later date. For I don't know why, or I don't know if they even said why, but they
I'm just avoiding.
They were like, we're gonna do this in a little bit. Yeah, and then Khabib tweeted out, "Move my court to Russia" after Jones got his thing moved to California, which. was honestly like, I'm not trying to rip on Khabib, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's a...
Oh, to move to Russia?
Yeah, the way I saw this was from this guy from, what's his name, Jason Hartley from MMA On Point was like, he retweeted it, and he said, yeah, that's not even possible. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's not how that works. You can't just... Because, like, okay, here's the thing. John Jones didn't move his case to California. They moved the fights to California, but that was from his original case, which was under the California State Athletic Commission. And, like, you can't... Where, like, that's where his previous fights had taken place, and the previous, what's the word for this? Like, violation of the rules, I guess you would say, was under that. And since they believed that these tests were remnants of the previous test, which would then still go along with that original case that took place in California, that's why California was like, hey, this was our case, we can do this. But it's like, dude, you didn't fight in Russia for that event. You didn't jump out of the octagon and attack the people in
Also, John
Russia.
Jones lives in New Mexico.
Yeah, he
I
doesn't
wanna
live
be
in
very
California.
clear.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he
doesn't.
And he's from, he used to fight, or he used to live in New York. He's from Endicott.
He's not from California.
He's not from California.
So he's not asking for the
He
whole
doesn't
time
live
discount,
like he.
buddy.
No. He when he fought in New York, he liked it because he was like, I grew up in New York. Like this is great to fight there.
And this brings up an interesting conspiracy theory with Bruce. Is Khabib even really the UFC champion if we follow the rules of the Ultimate Fighting Championship? And let me break this down for you for a second. For all you casuals out there who are going to go, this is just stupid, it doesn't make any sense.
I'm actually going to pull up the unified rules
for
this too.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, we're just going to go with everyone. Don't bring up anything that Conor did. Okay? Because
Conor didn't break
anyone
any
in the
rules
comment
press
section, anybody
conferences.
who might have an idea about this, if you would like me, if you feel strongly about what Conor McGregor did,
He broke zero rules in those press conferences.
and enough people comment on there, it's not just like one guy comments, enough people comment on there and is like, I want you to do a breakdown of why Conor should have been suspended for longer. Sure. But I'm going to break it down right now.
We can go over everything Conor said.
Nurmagomedov is not really the UFC lightweight champion, and then it would just be a vacant belt, but most likely he should be disqualified. We'll get to it. Right, so he signed an agreement with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and he was a licensed athlete for that event. Now, during competition, right? During the competition, the official end of like a bout is not when the referee stops the action. The official end of the bout is when the judges make their decision on how the bout ends, but the referee would say something to them to like, it was a knockout. He ruled it a knockout. He ruled it a technical knockout. He ruled it a submission. He ruled it a disqualification. Now, did the referee in this situation rule the disqualification? No. But there was never an official decision. So the referee, did he ever really make a ruling in the octagon? No, we kind of just deferred it to the athletic commission to make a decision, which we have not received yet. So Khabib is kind of waving around a fake belt right now. He's not really the lightweight champion officially at all. And this is why. When the referee waved a call to the stoppage of the fight, he didn't say why this fight was stopped. He just waved a stop. Khabib immediately jumps over the cage and attacks a non-participant. But, and here's the really important part, Dylan Dennis was also licensed by the athletic commission to be there.
It's true.
Dylan Dennis wasn't a guy who bought a ticket and threw a beer in.
No.
Dylan Dennis was a licensed person to be there. And so someone might bring up Conor McGregor in Bellator. Well, he jumped in. He wasn't a licensed cornerman there. He was a fan. So maybe they can kick him out of the arena forever. But Dylan Dennis was licensed to be there. So imagine if I'm at work and I attack another employee at work and we're both wearing uniforms and we both work for McDonald's. What's happening, right? Now I understand Khabib Nurmagomedov just brought in the largest pay-per-view that the UFC's ever had, so he's not getting fired, right? That being said, if you're the Nevada State Athletic Commission and you do not care about how much money somebody makes, you care about preserving the sport and keeping it legitimate, which is what I wholeheartedly believe that is the Nevada State Athletic Commission's true goal, is to keep this thing a sport and keep it fair for everybody and have some rules to it. You know what I mean? It's a brutal fight. We got to have some rules, and we got to have somebody making the rules.
I have some rules up here.
And it's not okay to jump across the cage and attack a cornerman.
And these are so I'm on the UFC's website right now. It's not going to show up on the screen, but
okay.
Whatever. It's the Unified Rules from the UFC website. If you don't believe me, you can absolutely look them up. Just look up UFC Unified Rules, and this is what's going to come up. But this is on their website, and so here's some of the rules that would have broken. The big one: flagrant disregarding of the referee's instructions. So the referee stops the fight, saying, "No, it's done," and then Khabib starts yelling and pointing and then running over to jump over the cage. And you can watch the video back. Herb Dean goes over to try. He almost goes over the cage. If I don't recall if he actually does jump over the cage or if he exits out the cage door or whatever. But he starts jumping up on the cage to try and pull Khabib back in, being like, "No, you can't just jump out there and fight the other dude's team. That's not how that works." So flagrant disregarding of the referee's instructions, because just because the referee called the match doesn't mean you don't have to listen to what he has to say. He's still in charge. Unsportsmanlike conduct that causes injury to the opponent. I guess that didn't cause injury to the opponent. But here, okay.
No, but here's the thing. Dylan Dennis is his opponent in this situation. The rules would clearly define.
Khabib's corner comes in to attack.
But your cornerman would be a competent. Here's the thing. That's where
it says
that's
attacking an opponent after the bell has sounded the end of the period of unarmed combat. So the bell had rung, and Khabib's cornerman come in, and that is because it also says later here, interference from a mixed martial artist corner or seconds. His corner rushes in, and okay, you can go and be like, well, Conor punched them in the face first, and I'm sorry, but if you think that means that Conor started that fight, then that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because Khabib started everything when he jumped out and attacked his corner.
You throw the first punch as a fight.
His corner rushed in there to fight Conor, to attack Conor. So why would Conor sit there and let them throw the first punch?
But also, hold on. Once you throw a punch at somebody who's not involved in the fight, then there's a fight. You know what I'm saying?
And the unified rules still do say defend yourself at all times.
You're starting to split hairs at who's throwing a punch at who. It's like
as soon as you start the fight, it doesn't matter.
Conor and his team wouldn't have thrown one punch at Khabib during that whole thing. They would have left with their money and they would have gone home. And they would have done that whether they won, and they would have done it whether they lost. And it's because Conor talks the same every time, but he acts the same every time too. So he leaves with like him and Nate. Nate's a thug, man. You think stuff he said about Nate was cool? No, Nate wasn't happy about it. You think stuff Nate said about Conor was cool? No, they weren't happy about it. Beforehand, they even threw stuff at each other. But and cans, like, you think Conor McGregor throwing a can at somebody wouldn't like bust their face open? Like, he wasn't being nice.
Oh, those are 16-ounce full cans of aluminum cans of Monster. Those are gonna hurt. 16 ounces of liquid is heavy, and it's in a metal can with some edges that could, if they hit you dead on, they're going to cut you open.
Yeah. I'm just not hearing it. I think he's not the champion. In my mind, he doesn't even have the belt.
He could.
You're going to have to convince me that he's won it.
They go, because what you're supposed to do is you go to, I wonder if it says anything else in the judging section.
No, I'm talking about not even the UFC's rules.
Well,
that doesn't matter. I'm talking about the Nevada State Athletic Commission is going to have to make a decision here, and a pretty big one. Does attacking... And it's not about if he deserves to be the champion or not. He certainly, from the fight I watched, of course he's a better fighter than Conor that night. No one's saying that he wasn't. No one's saying that he cheated either. I'm not saying that he cheated, but it does breaking the rules in that manner disqualify you from the competition? That's the question that people need to ask themselves. Does it disqualify you? I think it does. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, the governing body of combat sports, it would be interesting to me to see if they didn't, seeing as they thought a picogram of an anabolic long-term metabolite in John Jones' system that scientists proved didn't re-enter the system from the time of his suspension would make it impossible for him to become a UFC champion, then what is attacking somebody's corner?
Yeah.
That's okay, though? A picogram, a pinch of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool disqualifies you from being able to become a champion. But attacking somebody post-fight in a Nevada State Athletic Commissioned event, and it's two Nevada State Athletic Commission employees. Well, not employees, but like two people they brought in to go against each other.
Well, and another one too is, so here's the thing, Khabib. These are all fouls, by the way. They're listed as fouls on the list of fouls for the referees that they can call. And it says that fouls can either result in deduction of points or disqualification. And typically it's if you break one, or like let's say you accidentally poke your eye in an eye or something, that might give you a warning at first. But if it happens again and again, they're going to deduct a point. And then if it happens after they deduct a point, they're probably going to disqualify you. They don't typically deduct more than 1 point. And these are the rules that he broke that are fouls that would all likely result in point deductions or disqualifications. Like I said earlier, the flagrant disregarding of the referee's instructions. These rules all still apply just because the bell rang. Attacking an opponent after the bell rang.
Yeah, the contest was not over.
No.
Then
interference from a mixed martial artist corner seconds, but then there's another one in here.
While he's looking that up, look at the Weidman. What's it called? Who did he fight? Gegard fight. Look at the Weidman Gegard fight. So Chris Weidman fights Gegard Mousasi, and Gegard lands what ends up being legal knees. But there was a stop to the contest when the knees were thrown, and Chris Weidman said he could not continue. But they had to look at the replay. Now beforehand, they had ruled it that Chris Weidman had won, and that the knees were illegal, and that's why the bout was stopped. But upon looking at the hey guys, it cut out. I don't know exactly where I cut off, so I'm just going to kind of start off.
The TLDR is that the fight was originally awarded to Chris Weidman, or the W was, but then when they reviewed the fight and saw the knees were indeed legal, they overturned that. So it's not. Think of it like when John Jones fought Matt Hamill, and when they ended the fight, when Steve Mazzagatti ended the fight, and not that he was necessarily correct in how he ruled this, but what I'm saying is everyone assumed John Jones won. The announcers are talking about what's next for John Jones after all these fights that he's been winning, and what the victory over Matt Hamill means. And they go out there, and everyone in the corners, even Matt Hamill probably thought John Jones won that fight, and all those cornermen too. And then when they announce, because they have to go back for the official decision, because they don't, just because the referee calls a fight doesn't mean anything. They still have to get the official decision that's read aloud by Bruce Buffer, by the referee and the judges that have been made. And since the referee ruled that a disqualification, he lost that fight. So that's why you have to wait for the official decision, and the fight has technically the victory has not been awarded to one or the other. I know they gave Khabib the belt, but my point is you still have to wait for that official decision to see what actually happened, because everyone assumed John Jones won that. And there's no doubt in my mind they would have raised Khabib's hand if he had just gone over there and they had done the thing. But the point is that's why you can't do that, and that's why the contest is still going on. Those rules still apply. You're still in the octagon. I know the fight is not going on, but like it said, after the bell. That was after the bell. You can't do that. You can't. And quite frankly, that breaks just general United States laws as well. Of you can't do that. And I'm not saying that they're going to get in real legal trouble, but you can't. You can't be doing stuff like that. That happened at the Strikeforce brawl, which. That cost Strikeforce their TV deal. Everyone's trying to act like it's not a huge deal, and it didn't hurt the sport a lot. I think it does hurt the sport a lot, because especially for someone like Dana White I'm sure Dana White was pissed, because Dana White has been fighting for the past 20 plus years, trying to show everybody that this is a real sport, and that this isn't human cockfighting, and they're not just taking these bad guys and they're gonna make them go in there. They're trying to get away from that 2 men enter, 1 man leave thing that they had going on in the early days, because they want to show that it's not just it's a real sport. They're trying to prove that, and they're trying to prove that there's a lot of work and training that goes into this, and it's just like any other sport. And you can't they got banned in a lot of states, and they brought it back, which is great for the UFC. And Dana White's been this whole time trying to show that that's not what this is. This isn't just an unorganized brawl. This is a real sport, and that hurts it a lot. And I'm sure Dana White was pissed, because this is what he's been trying to prove to everybody. And now all these people can fire back and be like, look, that guy went nuts after the fight. That guy went out and he went to attack the other guy's cornerman. His cornerman went to fight the other guy. See, these dudes really aren't what you've been telling me they are all these years. I knew it.
Yeah.
It hurts the sport a lot. and it makes it look really bad. And it makes Dana White look bad because he's been telling these people the opposite this for all these years. No, it's really not like that. It's really not like that. And then you go out there and prove him to be like, you know, at least in that case, wrong, and you give these people this stuff to work with against the sport.
Pretty much agree. And so basically that's all that I think I kind of covered it there. I'm just gonna yell at you guys more if we talk about it. What do you got? Tito Ortiz crawling out of the grave that he dug himself at his last fight, evidently, because he's begging to come back to Bellator. And from you know what? There's one thing. Why Chael Sonnen's so good at talking trash. He usually isn't lying.
No,
very much. Sometimes there is sometimes like, okay, did the Nogueira brothers think that a bus was a horse? Yes. Who knows? But did Tito Ortiz really screw over every promoter he's ever worked for in his entire life and is begging for a second chance with Scott Coker, who's a pretty nice guy? Probably should give him one. Yeah. And it's pretty funny because Golden Boy Promotions didn't work out. And Golden Boy Promotions could work out. Actually, when Chael was breaking it down, here's the thing, man. Chael was breaking it down. Break down the numbers for real and look at how much money Golden Boy Promotions actually made at that event. It's a little bit more than you'd think.
But still not a lot.
It's not a lot, but it's hard to like make a lot of money. Like your first fight is going to be a hard one to promote.
It is.
So
but
I think
also two of the biggest names.
Yeah, threw Filthy Tom on there. I thought Tom. I think when you say that, like, Chael came out and said that it was like a complete failure. I think he's being a little hard on Oscar, and I think that Oscar, like, I think he's actually a pretty smart guy. I think that he put together first of all, if Chael, not trying to be a jerk here, buddy, but like Scott Coker does the same thing with you that Oscar did with Chuck and Tito.
Yeah.
You just kind of took, to be honest, Chael, you had a little bit of a different fighting style than Chuck, and Chuck took a few more shots to the head, and you took a few less, and you probably partied a hell of a lot less than Chuck did, from what we can get from your guys' lifestyles. Yeah. You were running for political office, and he was in the club with the homies, but also, like, hey, you know.
But the thing that Chael really does a good job saying is that, or I guess making a point of, is that, okay, Chael Sonnen did fill the arena at his last fight.
Yeah.
Tito did not.
No.
Chael Sonnen just fought Fedor Emelianenko. Still a huge name. He was fighting in the quarterfinals?
The semifinals.
Yeah, semifinals. It was the winner goes to the finals of the Bellator heavyweight Grand Prix. And, okay, Chael Sonnen is not a heavyweight fighter. He went into that match at 227, which is very light for a heavyweight. Some guys fight at like 240, and that's cool, but like Stipe fights at 242 or something weird like that, which is like he still was the champ for a long time. It was really good, and I personally think is the GOAT. But
Stipe's the heavyweight GOAT.
But here's the thing: 227 pounds is very light for
he fought
a heavyweight.
Most of his career at 85.
At 185, and realistically, he should be at like 205 right now. But he was winning that Fedor fight until he tried to make a really dumb transition, and he lost the fight. He did lose the fight, but I think he did a lot better against Fedor Emelianenko than you would have if 2 years ago someone told you, "Hey,
I don't know,
Fedor's gonna fight Chael, and Chael's gonna do a lot better than you think."
I think if Chael would have fought Tito, or if Chael would have fought both Tito and Fedor the way he would have fought Quinton, he's winning those fights. I think he just, I don't know. I like Chael. I want him to keep fighting. I get what he's saying. He goes, look, I'm the co-main and main event, buddy. I'm bringing in the tickets.
Yeah, we're filling the arenas.
You didn't fill the arena last time. Tito also fought Chuck Liddell, man. And it was a much harder arena to fill. And it turns out, I mean, you might want to come in. Like, here's the thing. Did Tito burn the bridges? Scott didn't come out and say that he did. Chael's kind of coming out and say that he did. So I tend to take, especially because I saw it on You're Welcome, and Chael, although he does some promotion there, he does some this and that, Chael tries to keep it a little bit less trash talk. Like, he keeps, I don't know. He's trying to keep it more reporting. So I feel him that I tend to believe him that Tito left on bad terms. I mean, Tito Ortiz wore a shirt on stage that said Dana is my bitch once. So, I mean, that's not a very nice thing to say about your boss.
Yeah.
/ old manager. So I get that. I believe that Tito might have left on bad terms.
Tito probably did. I'm sure it probably was similar to what happened with the UFC, which, like, my question, I guess, to Tito Ortiz is why? Look at, everyone still loves Chuck Liddell. There's not a lot of people that are like, man, I hate Chuck Liddell. Or like, man, his legacy was terrible. Like,
super
no.
nice guy.
And the UFC loves Chuck Liddell still. And you know what, Tito? If you didn't decide to be like an idiot towards the end of your UFC career, you could have also been loved still by the UFC. Like, they would have still been like, hey man, I know Chuck pounded you, but like, you're still an awesome fighter. We still like you. Like, and you're still a cool guy. But no, you decided to be like.
He took everything so personally all the time, and it was like, Tito, you got to think, man.
It's a fight, man.
He kind of got mad. I think he kind of got mad because at the end of his career, like, he knew that he wasn't going to beat some of these guys, and they were sending some of the younger guys in to kind of take him out. And he might have taken offense to that. But look, dude, you got to also think,
man.
Ken Shamrock did the same thing for you. You just
That's
lost
true.
to his little brother back-to-back times, dude. What does Ken have anything to do to walk in there and try and fight you? You just got beat up by his little brother twice? Like, there's no storyline.
It's a torch passing thing. Man.
Yeah, there's no storyline that helps Ken out there.
Yeah.
But Ken fought you 3 times and let you beat him 3. I mean, he didn't let you beat him. You beat him 3 times. Like,
you look at the way his face looked after some of those fights. It's not good, man.
Yeah, no. Ken didn't think he was probably gonna win those
ones.
He was taking fights with a younger guy to help build the sport. And the fact that Tito couldn't just do the same, and still can't do the same.
Everyone's time comes and goes. Like, you're not gonna be the champ forever, and you're not gonna be. And I get it, that sucks, man. But like, play your part. Like, this isn't, like you said, this isn't like a personal thing. This is just how like the sport works, man. And eventually, the guy who's been around for a long time gets replaced by a younger guy, and that's just what happens.
Or maybe not like Floyd Mayweather. Maybe you keep winning until you're 41, but you didn't. True. But you did not do that.
You didn't give him the chance to let that happen. You just were like, no.
Well, but he also.
I'm going to challenge Dana White to a boxing match.
Exactly, dude. Because you want to know what I think he did beat Bader later in his career. He beat.
Yeah, like he has good wins.
He beat Alexander Shlemenko, who was the middleweight champion at the time in Bellator, who came up and fought Tito and he beat him. Like, Tito still beat some guys later in his prime. Like, he was still doing well, but like he's such a jerk to work with. I guess that everyone's like, dude, it's just not worth it.
And if you guys haven't seen, watch the Ultimate Fighter season 3. If you have Fight Pass, that season the coaches are Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
And Ken Shamrock's just going in there like, okay, Ken Shamrock was not the best coach. I mean, like, I didn't kind of expect him to be the best coach for mixed martial arts. He's really kind of more on the bodybuilding side and, like, I'm going to get as strong as I can. I'm going to pound that guy's face. And it's like, whatever. But he's trying to, he's going on the show to help promote his fight with Tito. I get it. That's why he took it. But dude, Tito was a jerk on that show, too. And this isn't me saying this. This is Tito admitted to doing this, trying to get in there and trying to rile up Ken Shamrock and to get him mad and to try and get him to fight him off camera, doing all this stuff to try and start a fight and provoke something. And it's like, okay, like, and people do this all the time where they are like, well, we're not in the octagon right now, so you're not going to do anything about it, so I'm going to just talk all this garbage I want about you. And then try and put it all on you when you go to attack me. And that's why, like, the Diaz brothers, people get mad at them, and I'm like, dude, because they don't treat the situation they're in like, I can't touch you unless we go into the octagon together. Like, no, you can't just go around here saying you're gonna beat me up without me going out there and gonna defend myself. Or like when Chaelson was like, I can't let Vanderlei still get that close to me. Like, you gotta be an idiot to do that. And Tito's just going out here trying to start something every time. And because the thing is, I should have said this earlier, but at the beginning of the season, Dana White gets them both in a room and he's like, I know you guys really don't like each other. It's like, but I'm asking you, please just keep things cool for the show. Like, this is about you and your upcoming fight, but this is also about like trying to help train these guys who want to become members of the fighters in the UFC. Like this is more about them than it is about you. It's more about like trying to bring in new people to the sport and get them and help them. Like these are guys with a lot of potential and help them evolve into like better fighters. And so, and he has a mind. He's like, please just keep it cool and don't like go out there and just don't do anything stupid. And they both were like, and Ken Shamrock was really like, yeah, Dana, you know what? Like I got you, man. I get it. You don't, this show. You want the show to go the way it's supposed to be, not like make it Tito and Ken's show. It's the Ultimate Fighter. Like it's about training people to become the next Ultimate Fighter. Like this isn't. And Tito just went in there and every episode did that. And I know that a lot of people would have rather been on Tito's team than Ken's because they didn't feel that Ken was maybe well enough equipped to be the coach, which is understandable. But like Tito was not that much better. Tito played a lot of favoritism, especially with Matt Hamill, and that's not Matt Hamill's fault. But he was like...
Did they train together?
The thing was that Matt Hamill was the same age that Tito was when he started. And Tito was...
like a weird sentimental guy.
Yeah, Tito was just like... He's like, hey man, he like sits down with Matt, and he's like, hey man, he's like, yeah, so, you're whatever. And he's like, looking at him weird, and Matt's like, oh, that's the age you started. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, but what, that doesn't really mean anything, Tito, and like...
I don't take Matt Hamill for a very sentimental human being.
No, Matt Hamill's like, whatever, man, I'm here to compete like everybody else, like...
I think he's a mixed martial artist who just literally just happens to be deaf, but then has all the same qualities that you would expect a mixed martial artist to have.
It was like, Tito was making it weird for no reason, and then you got Michael Bisping over here who's like, I don't get, like, what is... Okay, Tito, last time I checked, both of us are on the same team, me and Matt, so you have to, like, still coach the rest of the team and train the rest of the team, too. This is a team event, so I know that you want Matt Hamill to be your next, to be your prodigy and be the next star or whatever.
Bisping put that one.
But Bisping won that show, and there's other guys too, and like again, this is nothing against Matt Hamill. Matt Hamill didn't choose for Tito to be weird about all that stuff. But then he did, whereas Ken at least tried to really teach like the whole team and make it more about the team.
I'd say so.
I know that he wasn't necessarily as good of a coach, but like...
I mean, Ken Shamrock's a jackass.
Ken Shamrock still went out there and tried to do what the show was supposed to be about. Like,
he's not a bad guy.
No, I don't think that Ken... I know that there's
and he's a pretty open guy. You want to know what? Ken Shamrock, everyone knows that, oh, he's shit. I don't think Ken Shamrock's that shady. I think if you
leaves a lot of his cards on the table and it's like,
here's
everything he really is.
You want to know something about Ken Shamrock, you probably go ask him.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, I think he's a decent...
I think he's definitely a good guy. You look at the first UFC event, because don't forget Ken Shamrock was in that first event. He, after losing to Royce Gracie, they interviewed him, and they're like, and this was for the quarterfinal. This was the semifinal. So he was definitely for sure in the top 4 fighters on that night. And they said, do you think? He's like, I know. They're like, you thought you were gonna win this. He's like, do you think you're the second best fighter here? And he goes, they were really trying to see if they're like, do you think that maybe you could have beaten any of the other 2 guys who didn't have to fight Royce, and you would have just lost to Royce in the finals if it went out that way. And he said, you know what, I think I'm the 3rd best fighter here. He goes, I think that one of those guys probably would have beat me either way. And he's like, and he's not trying to split hairs. I'm like, well, if we would have met in the finals, I would have gotten second. He's just like, you know what, man, honestly, I think I'm the 3rd best person here. Whereas, like, they had no reason to really say that. He could have totally been like, oh yeah, I'm the 2nd best fighter here. I could have easily beaten those guys. Like, he's gonna keep it real after the fight, he's gonna be...
Exactly.
I think people made him out to be the villain he really isn't, like...
but you also have to think, he started off in professional wrestling, and there wasn't a sport called mixed martial arts. And he kind of had the idea that, hey, why don't we do professional wrestling, but we really make it look like a fight. Like, we really, really make it look like a fight, because he didn't think that they would ever allow 2 people to ever fight, like, for real, not boxing.
And it got banned in a lot of states.
He never thought it was going to be able to happen.
States
so he wanted to make it as close as it could be. He even talked about, if you look at the Shamrock, how he used to run stuff, he claims now, who knows if it's true or not, but if you talk to somebody like Bas Rutten, who, Scrapper, they used to do fixed fights, but it was called shoot fighting, where everybody knew it was fake, but they did it really close. And he said they would, when they would train together, they would try to let the person, if one guy was kind of getting him the better of him in training, that during it, they would go, you know what, you can win this one.
Yeah.
You're actually doing pretty good this time. Let's keep it realistic. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm gonna come in there and land a big shot on you, or you know what I mean? Like when we're grappling around, you're kind of getting the better of the exchanges right now. Now, did that happen every time? No. Or maybe they went, you know what? You just landed that super cool move on me. That would be a great finishing move. You know, something along those lines, back and forth. But they were really using martial arts and faking it, and then he transitioned into real martial arts. So he was a good fighter coming into it.
He's absolutely a founder of the sport.
Absolutely, and he had a lot of fights that were fixed early on, but it was still experience, and it was still, you know what I mean. And Pancreas, when they were open hand striking, they weren't close fisting. Him and Bassrutten, I think. Was it Ken? I think he might have beaten Boss twice.
I don't recall, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he did, and Boss was a UFC champion, so it's like. Now they didn't close fists, but Boss and Boss was a much more of a kickboxer, but he also had great grappling as well. But Boss was definitely, his hands were his strongest weapon, so you took Boss's best weapons away from him, and Shamrock beat him, but still.
Yeah, well, and Ken Shamrock also had the first what was it, the first training camp, Lion's Den, and was it the best one? Absolutely not, but he did spring around. Like, that's what I'm saying, where I'm like, he really was a founder of the sport, and he really did just want to, like you were saying earlier, that's like he went in there and he's letting this younger guy go in and beat him. It's like a passing of the torch type thing. Like, all right, you're the next generation of fighters. I mean, I'm probably able to see, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fight you still because I'm still a fighter and...
Still fighting when he's 50.
Yeah. You know, he was not young in those later Tito Ortiz matches. No, they're absolutely not. Was not a young by any means. And I know that you can be like, well, Randy Couture was old and he won the belt. And I'm like, okay, but Ken Shamrock's not Randy Couture. And quite frankly, from just different generations of fighting. Whereas Ken Shamrock literally was there day one for the UFC. And definitely did not have training in all the things that you would see a modern fighter have training in at all. So, you would expect Tito to beat him. Because Tito wasn't just like, I'm just this big, strong guy, I'm going to go in there and beat everybody. There's no rules. It was like he had started out with the jiu-jitsu and all that, and worked in other elements, whereas it wasn't the case for all the earlier fighters. And Ken Shamrock, honestly, I'm very impressed with how long he stayed around compared to a lot of the other early days fighters. Like, it's not easy to, there's a lot of the early guys, the founders and whatnot, there's no way they would have made it in today's UFC, or even in right around the time of UFC 33, or stuff past that, UFC 40s. There's no way some of those guys would have made it, because it became a lot less in the early days, everyone was kind of good at one thing or a couple things. It wasn't this guy's really good striker, really good jiu-jitsu, really good wrestling. It was like, dude, I'm a wrestler, and I'm going to come in here and try and show that wrestling's better than the other ones. Or I'm a boxer, exactly. Now I'm going to try and prove that. That's how it was. It wasn't this is what I started in, and now I'm good at all these other things too.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right, folks. Oh, also, last thing, and Luke, I'm sorry, or Uriah, I'm going to cut you off on this. You're not going to get to say. We're going to end this right after this. TJ Dillashaw's going to make weight. Shut up. All right, bye. What's up, everybody? This episode of The Flying Kimura is brought to you by Gundry MD. Now, what is Gundry MD? I don't know if I've ever heard of this. Well, to people who tell me that, I'd say, have you ever been to a Barnes & Noble? Because if you had, you would have obviously seen that he has his book there. Okay, also, second thing, for you non-readers out there who I need to inform about his hidden dangers in healthy foods that, you know what it's causing? Disease and weight gain. And basically, the book describes it all, but if you don't like reading, because I'm telling you about this, so you obviously don't like reading because you've never been to a Barnes & Noble, go to the website. We got the affiliate link in the description. Look at the long list of supplements. It's lectin-free. That's the big thing here. And I've looked into it. I have to agree with the doctor on it. I'm not a doctor, but I agree with the doctor, if that makes sense. Basically, just go check out the link. There's a ton of supplements. You don't need them all. Look at your diet. You don't need maybe need to read the book. Read a couple chapters out of it. It's something that might be affecting your fitness, might be affecting your diseases, affecting your health, and see what supplements might fit your best line. You're not going to want them all because you're just not going to. That wouldn't make sense. You don't need 500 vitamins. But they got like a lot of vitamins on there. All right, this ad's really long. If you listen to the whole thing, you're smart. But if you didn't listen to any of it, you're a little smarter because you already read the book. Enjoy the episode.